Hi, Kate.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm in the car again. We've got some stuff going on at home that I thought we can work around and we can't. So I guess one positive component of coaching is we can be flexible.
We can be flexible, and your year
We
was
can-
right, so you're alting.
I am alting. I am flexing or trying. For those that have followed us on Instigating Women and Friends, just to comment on that we've had a little shift. Liz has decided just to be a guest from time to time, so Kate and I are going to go back to the core of why we started Instigating Women and Friends in the first place, and showcase, demo, coaching. Make sure everyone can really experience through these videos what coaching is, what it isn't. Sometimes we get asked about, is it therapy, or sounds like therapy, feels like therapy, and it's not. Therapy goes back to why did these things start in the first place and trying to fix possibly what happened long ago in your life. Coaching is, how do we know what's going on with us right now and how different things are being expressed, why we're stuck, why we're unhappy, why we might be feeling lost. Try to figure that out, dig in deep, but then work forward. So today, Kate has offered to work through an exercise with me. And so hope you all enjoy this. I'll turn it over to you, Kate.
Sure. So I'm taking a positive psychology practitioner certificate right now. It's a lot of words, but I have an interest in positive psychology. I've always had an interest in positive psychology, and it's really the idea of how we interact with the world can create different ripples throughout our relationships in the world, and having more positivity. And this isn't Pollyann, but more positivity in our lives through positive psychology can help create those ripples and greater happiness within ourselves, which I'm always interested in a little bit greater happiness.
Mhm.
So the exercise that I did this as well, but what I asked Gwen to do was a positive psychology intervention. It's a level one on the very first module of the thing. And if you guys are interested, I can always put this exercise in. I can link it in our video where we launch it and YouTube and whatnot. But the idea of it is examining the positive emotions that we experience. Um, there's about, I want to say 26 of them on this. There might be less, there might be more. I don't know. There's quite a few of them on this list. And to rank them from what I experience the most and what I experience the least. And then on your top five, the ones that you experience the most, why do you think they're so prominent for you? And so, Gwen, how did you find this experience?
Um, I was daunted a little bit by the long list, honestly. And I read every word and every definition. And so some of these I didn't even rank because I can't honestly say that some of these I experienced much at all. Um, and then when I did rank them, it's a really good exercise. First of all, that's my overall. It makes you think about what emotions come up for you, what your mindset really is more of the time than others. Um, some of the words or some of the emotions are fairly close, so I like to choose. Um, and it helped me understand that um, I'm a lot of this or that. I'm a lot of bookends. I'm not a lot kind of in the middle,
Mhm.
um, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, most people know I grew up with a mom who was bipolar, and so I grew up in a life of high mania or low, long depression. And so, it has me reflect on, how am I reflecting that in my own life?
Mhm.
Not that that's terrible, but it I guess it's interesting.
Yeah, sounds like it caused you to pause a little bit.
Yeah, it did.
So one of the things that I have always struggled with is this concept of joy. And that's the first one on this list is joy. And me personally, I I get mad at the word joy. Um, just because it seems like a lot.
Mhm.
Like,
It is.
like there's a lot of pressure for joy. And when I first started getting into coaching, I was like, I started coaching because I was a little bit lost in my corporate career, going, there isn't joy, and just feeling really sad that there wasn't joy in my life. What for me this helped do is give me little step functions. Like it's not joy or
Mhm.
anything, but there's all these other positive emotions that you can explore and have and feel good about the plethora of them in your life. For me, also having the definitions was super helpful.
Yeah.
So oftentimes I like the first thing that I started to do was what brings me joy was my question mark 5, 7 years ago. And the again that seemed like such a high bar. But then to have the definition super helped me just figure out, oh, do I experience that? Because I think emotions are difficult in so much as we don't spend a ton of time defining them.
No, we don't. And not thinking at all about the scale or spectrum.
Yeah.
And emotions and feelings live in our body, which we've learned. Um, this really helps to see all the stuff that we might be feeling in our body. And it's just interesting that I don't feel some of this stuff in my body, and maybe I do and I don't realize it, but it's, as you said, a great list to see, not to be overwhelmed, but to know there are things that we can work on and work our way into.
Yeah, I think that definition with the word helps me to kind of see, okay, where would, because one of them is awe. And I know my husband feels awe a lot. He will often like, we'll be walking in the forest in Oregon and he'll have a hot cup of coffee in his hand and he'll just be like, oh, isn't it beautiful? And like he has this sense of awe. But for me, I don't feel awe a lot. And when I read the definition, it kind of helped me to see, okay, where would I recognize this? Because I'm sure
Hmm.
I feel it, but I just don't recognize it.
Hmm.
Where would I recognize this in my body? Where would this be located? Um, how would my body be positioned, right? And I see him kind of looking up because the forest in Oregon is so green and so lush and so big. Um, and so to for him to look around and be like, this is huge. And I often think now, okay, well, when I feel awe, I might be looking up. I might be feeling it more in the skin that's exposed or in my eyes or something like that. And I wonder where others might feel different emotions as they go through this list.
Hmm. I also thought this would probably be a hell of a lot easier with a list of negative emotions.
Say more.
I think that we are just wired to spot problems, the fight, flight, freeze. We come home from the end of a day and we can spout out every crappy thing, every just frustrating moment. But I don't think I'm at least naturally inclined to think about all the positive stuff. And that makes me a little sad, actually.
So there's a reason behind that. It goes back to our evolution from the standpoint of it is more beneficial for your physical well-being to be able to scan and identify the negative. So if you're scared because there's a tiger running, okay, right? In this day and age, right, the the tiger is more like the email that comes through from your boss.
Yeah.
Those are our tigers these days. And
Yeah.
if you're listening to this podcast, it's more like this than a tiger.
Hmm.
But so there's an evolutionary reason that we are prone to see the negative. Um, the positive is something that we have to train ourselves to see for that very reason, because the negative puts us on the edge of, well, we might not be safe. And the
Hmm.
positive puts us in the space of, oh, we are safe. And that's,
Yeah.
that's not that's not good for us if there's tigers around. But the email is not a tiger.
But it's the email, it's the news, it's, you know, the world.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, it really got me to thinking that it's important to work on this stuff because it's the other, the negative of all of it just comes so naturally to all of us. It's no wonder there's so much anxiety, there's so much depression, there's just so much fear right now.
And when we work on our positive emotions, then we interact in a more positive way, and it impacts other people, and it impacts their anxiety, their stress level, and you can see that ripple through society.
Mhm.
Um, we've all had the altercation on, returning an item, canceling a product, just this interaction isn't going to go well. This is already starting off as a negative, and how do I make this more positive? Well, you can't do that if you're not at least honed in a little bit to your positive emotions,
Mhm.
seeing them.
Yeah.
Do you feel comfortable sharing which five were your most prominent?
Yeah, I can do that. And I have things crossed off and things resorted many times. So I don't know that this is perfect. But again, just looking at the definitions, my number one was love because I feel like my love for my family, my dog, the underdogs in the world, whoever they are, certain places, um, my sports teams. I mean, that's just a thread through my life consistently. Number two was optimism.
Mhm.
And, you know, I really liked the definition that portion of the definition that said, just this belief that things will mostly work out. I just really inherently believe that. Again, not Pollyanna-ish, but I just have this strong core belief that things will work out. Number three then gets into confidence. And that's more about, again, believing in myself, um, and something more universal. So I just believe there's something out there universally good. But that self-belief, I mean, the shadow of that is I probably just had to grow up that way. I couldn't count on my mom. I didn't grow up in a great supportive environment, never had therapy once in my life. So it was like I either have to count on myself or live in constant fear. So that's how that came about, I think. Number four is gratitude. Um, and that's just all encompassing grateful for everything. It's accompanied by humility and even reverence for this wonderful world that we live in, which I wish we heard more about all the wonderful things about it, but I really do know that. I am grateful for every time somebody is kind and supportive because it's not expected by me, for sure. And then interest. And that's curiosity, fascination that demands and captures my attention. And I just tied that in my mind to my love for learning, my love to explore, my love to see what else can there be? How can we improve things and constantly in classes? And I know you share that with me. So that's how I defined interest.
What's interesting is, as you were saying each one of those, I experience you that way.
Hmm.
I experienced your gratitude. I experienced your love. I experienced your curiosity. I experienced all of the ones that you mentioned.
Phew, good. Because I was Oh my gosh, what if Kate goes, "What?
You're not
No."
I would never, first of all.
Well, it's fair. It's fair. My mirror doesn't show that, Gwen.
Well, I think there's a spectrum too, right? So you
Yeah.
might define, because I have optimism too, and on my list, but there's different, there's different, it's a spectrum, right? There's different degrees.
Mhm. Right.
Uh, And so I have, when I do emotional intelligence seminars, I talk about the trustometer, which is
Okay.
one side it's trust everyone all of the time, and on the other end it's trust no one none of the time. And I think optimism has a similar thing, right? You're
Mhm.
optimistic about everything, and or you're, you're not optimistic at all. And there is a spectrum. So I think you're probably a little bit more optimistic than I am, but I'm definitely in the middle, and I
Mhm.
feel optimistic a lot. I just um, I think we go about our optimism differently.
Mhm.
Meaning,
Yeah.
I go ahead.
You go first, and then I'll say more.
Um, just that idea of um, I have this saying of expect the worst, prepare for the best, and expect the worst, which you do not like that saying at all.
I do not like that saying.
But for me,
Mm-mm.
um, that drives me to into preparation. Like I will think about the scenario, I will envision what happens, and um, all the different things that may be obstacles in my way. And that helps me to probably over prepare, but it helps me to prepare. And I think yours is more of a pure optimism. Um, and mine's a little bit more, maybe it's anxiety driven, but I do, we just go about it a different way is
Mhm.
saying.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I agree with that. And I don't want to use the word optimism and have it come across in any way like just naive or foolish.
Oh,
Um, but yeah, I certainly like to prepare. I love to try to control to minimize any adverse outcome if possible. And yet, I guess that over time I've come to learn that sometimes if I don't control it all, somebody else or some other situation or someone I've never heard of just comes in and somehow fills in the rest. Somehow, when I don't get stuff done on time or get it done at all at a deadline, it ends up to work out for the best anyway because things shift
yeah,
and whatever that wasn't necessary in the first place. Um, when I'm lost and feeling completely out of control and completely without answers, which I do, like any normal human being, I'm just optimistic that the right thing's going to happen at the right time. And I just need to listen and keep my eyes open and kind of with my gut feel out the situation and it's going to work out for the best. I don't know where that comes from, but it's deep.
yeah. I remember sitting on a plane with a coworker, reading the book "Learned Optimism" by Martin Seligman, and her like leaning over because she had an aisle seat and I had an aisle seat, and she's like, "Why are you reading that book? You're the most optimistic person I know." And I was like, "Oh, you're probably right. I'm pretty darn optimistic." But again, it's that spectrum of who you're talking to,
Mhm.
how they experience the world. Um, I'm definitely not an Eeyore. But I think, as you said, this is not about Pollyanna. This is
Mhm.
not the like that idea of I don't have to do anything in order for it to work out. I think when I hear you speak, I hear this like genuine idea of giving people an A. If you've heard that saying, like, if you
Mhm.
an A, if you start out giving them an A, not having them earned it, but if you start out with like this person has good intentions, this person has, um, I'm getting getting a delivery at my door. um, maybe they won't. Darn.
Do you need to pause?
No, it's just the dog's gonna bark now.
That's
So,
okay.
um, but that idea of that authentic, I expect the best from you, and therefore you're gonna give me the best. I
Mm-hmm.
see that come through you so much, so
Mm-hmm.
much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That for whatever reason, that's embedded deep inside.
So just,
And I already talked about confidence a little bit. I've got that inherent belief in self, and that could be a shadow side of having to grow up the way I did. Um, Maybe at times I'm too confident in myself. Maybe that creates walls between myself and others. Um, and so I'm working on that. I'm working on that a little bit, even though it's positive. Um,
I love
Gratitude, I just genuinely am grateful.
I love that you brought up the shadow side of each of these to see like because our lives shape us and get us to where we are. And sometimes that's positive and sometimes that's negative. And so I think one of the additional exercises that we could do is to look through and say, why don't I have more joy? Where's the shadow side of that? Um, what's preventing me from experiencing that?
Mm-hmm.
And joy is really hard for me because I feel like the bar is so high. Let's pick another one. But the idea here too is that out of these, gosh, 19, 26, however many there are, um, there's five that you probably feel the most and that you can, identify. And then maybe through doing the exercise, we carry a little bit more of those up front for us to notice that, oh, I feel hopeful, or I feel love, or I feel amusement, or I feel awe today. And just help us to recognize them a little bit more frequently as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with all that. I can give you a few of those that I didn't rank at all.
Sure.
And again, I think there's as much learning from that as what I did rank. So I didn't rank serenity. I did not rank relief or surprise, euphoria, or contentment. And a lot of those have to do with being okay with the status quo or being okay with just enjoying whatever, being relieved something went well or a negative outcome is avoided. And that's sad. Um, but again, I could never afford to be relieved that things were going well because I knew right around the corner they'd go down the drain again. And so that life just built up a lot of armor in me. Thank God I ended up focusing on the positive and love. Um, but yeah, now to focus on how to be calm and peaceful and content. I don't know. That's a next and surprise. I don't assume a surprise is going to be a positive surprise. So that's insightful.
So, would it strike you as interesting that I do feel serene and calm a lot of times?
Hmm,
So one of my top five was satisfaction.
hmm, nice. Satisfaction was 14 for me, but again, it's because of the definition.
Mhm.
A sense of pleasure or contentment from accomplishing something
Yeah,
or fulfilling a need. So, yeah, I can go there, but it's this serenity, just calm, peaceful feeling of acceptance of oneself. I was
yeah.
like, no, I'm never. accepting of myself. There's always something to improve. There's something, but just and I'm just not calm and peaceful. I'm just always so forward thinking. I'm always about the next thing and the next thing. And I'm not contentment, peaceful, comforting, low key sense of happiness and well being. I'm trying.
Well, I'm more apt to feel content than I am to feel joy.
Hmm.
I don't
So
have the
joy was my number 8.
okay.
And so this is a sense of elation, happiness, and perhaps even exhilaration, often experienced as a sudden spike due to something good happening. And so, yes, that's a big one. It's a powerful one. But again, that's one of my upper limit emotions because I love sports. I
Like,
love to cheer. I love, the basket being made or the touchdown being made. I like to run half marathons. I love to cross that finish line. So it's that, arms up in the victory stance. Yes. And the crowd all together. Do I experience just general joy throughout my daily life? No, probably not.
so you know about me in sports.
Yes.
I don't know sports very often. Um, but I have recently gotten into a little bit of football. I call it foosball in my house, but I call it, football.
Okay.
And it makes me so anxious
Mm.
if I want a team to win. It makes me so anxious that I don't enjoy it at all. So like it's going to be like on the Super Bowl, I sat there and played a game because every time I started watching the game, they started to lose. So I was like, I I can't watch this. Like I was ignoring it for the most part, so my team would do well.
So you're superstitious.
Oh, I'm definitely superstitious. But I was like, this is not fun for me at all. And my husband, who follows the Raiders, is very comfortable with the feeling of watching football and then it just being a disaster because his team will always lose at they might be 20 ahead at half, and then by the end of the game, they've lost. So he's very comfortable with that feeling. And for me to be so anxious and watching the game and blah blah blah, and he just finds it fascinating. But I don't have that like, oh, they they got the touchdown feeling of joy. I have the oh thank God. It's more relief than it is joy.
So how high was relief on your list?
Um, I have to read it.
Okay.
Um, it was fairly low because of the a negative outcome is avoided.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think about the negative that much in the moment. I think about the negative ahead of time because you and I are both on the Enneagram that are future focused. And
Mm-hmm.
we think about the future quite a bit, but that relief feels very much in the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm not thinking about the negative in the moment. That's already been thought of.
Right.
It's already been handled.
Right. That makes sense. Except when it comes to touchdowns.
Exactly. That I find sports so difficult because I'm not doing the thing. And so to
Uh,
be fully invested in a thing that I'm not doing just feels really unnatural.
okay.
I never played
Yeah.
team sports or anything. It
Yeah.
was very individual and anything that was free. So
Yeah. Get it.
anything that had any cost associated with it.
Yeah.
So
So what are your top 5?
my top five, one was affection, and mostly because of this guy. I just
Newton.
I love this guy so much. It's ridiculous. And I've had before. always they were always Akitas, which Akitas are kind of like having roommates. Like you feed them,
Oh,
you provide for them. They're very affectionate. Like they'll come up to you and be like, "Hey, I'd like pet." Okay, thanks. I'm good now. It's like 2 seconds. Um, my second one was hope.
hmm,
Uh, and again, I think that's because I'm very future oriented. So there's a lot of hope and anticipating good things. My third was love. Um, I have a very strong, loving relationship with my husband, and so I think that that really helped kind of solidify that one. Few years ago, like not a few, but a decade ago, it wouldn't have been love, I don't think. Um, Optimism. Um, Even when I'm anxious and stressed, I do believe that things will work out. I'm
hmm,
truly a believer that like even a closed door is it's either closed for right now, no means no for now, um, or it means that there's some other door that has opened up.
hmm,
So you need to figure it out. Um, and then satisfaction was my fifth. Um, and part of it is that getting stuff done part for sure.
hmm.
I love me a good list, marking things off the list,
Oh yeah.
big black marker, like totally. But I also feel satisfied after I've worked out. Like that physical release, I often feel satisfied by just
Hmm.
that aspect. And the gratitude of my body being able to do the thing um, has been, that's shown up a lot in my life over the last couple of
Oh
years.
yeah. Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and so satisfaction over I'm puzzling. So if I get a puzzle done, I'm very satisfied with that feeling. It did not do anything for there's no do the puzzle on the list of things to do. But I do feel very like look at that. I did that. I figured that out.
Hmm. Hmm.
Do the New York Times puzzle when I get that done. I'm like, look at that. Um, so there's a lot of satisfaction that comes in my life these days. Um, and it's a very good emotion for me. Like
That's
it's a
great.
yeah, it's a very like present emotion, I would say.
Yeah. And I do see all of that come through you each week when we're talking, whether it's on video or just in person, person to person. I also wonder if you would have had the same list a couple years ago at work.
Mhm. No, not at all. Um, I probably wouldn't have been able to come up with the top five
Mhm.
because of where I was in corporate, um, and how I was handling it. So there was so much um, control that I was exercising. And I think control is one of those neutral activities that leads to negative emotions
Yeah.
that I don't think that I would have had as easy a time looking at this list.
Mhm.
And I think it
Yeah.
would have
Yeah. I
mentally.
agree with that because I think I knew you starting in 2020, right?
Mhm.
And I think that comment resonates with me as well. I think I would have had a very different list a few years ago. And so I'm really happy I've made this transition.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a little bit stumped on some of these positive emotions and know there's still work to do, I am so happy I think I got to 20. So that's huge. I would have had many fewer back in 2018, 2019.
Yeah, I think um when things happen in your life, when things happen in my life to reshift and refocus over like, oh wait, I thought this was going to be different. I
Hmm.
thought it was a path. I no longer want that path. What does that look like? Like that transition for me, which didn't have to eliminate corporate. It didn't for many years, but it didn't have to. Um, and but getting more things in my life that bring me joy.
Yeah.
What step? Like I said, that first, like, I didn't even think that I deserved happiness. Who was I to need happiness? Who was I to need joy? So yeah, it would have been a different list.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think either of us at that point understood this connection to our bodies.
No, and I'm barely understanding it now. I'm still learning how to feel things in my body. Every day it's a challenge.
Hmm. I agree. And I've recently been on a few different sessions with other coaches, and when they do a body scan, they intentionally ask you to scan for pleasure
Mm.
or scan for positive. And I really like that because typically when we do body scans, we're looking for pain or we're looking for some weird feeling or some gut ugh. And so I think given this list and this conversation, I'm just going to intentionally start to do that body scan a little differently from now on.
Yeah, yeah. I like that idea of seeing what feels good. For me on the body scan, unless I move that particular area, I don't feel it. So
Mm,
I'm a couple steps but behind you as far as, that connection point is
mm-hmm,
concerned.
mm-hmm. Well, great. This has been really helpful. I I know we were taught that you don't need assessments to coach. Um, Yet this is proof you don't need an assessment to have a coaching conversation or even to self coach and start to understand yourself a little bit more. Just going through this list and thinking about definitions, thinking about ranking, thinking about shadow sides and gaps. This is an exercise that I will stick with me for a long time.
It's excellent. There's more. So maybe in a couple few weeks we'll do
Yeah.
another one and see where we're at. This was level one. We'll see if we can get up to level
Okay.
two.
Oh
Gotta
my gosh. That's even scarier. But yeah, it's
Oh
great.
yeah.
I'm optimistic.
Yeah, you can do it. I know you can. Awesome.
Great. Well,
Well,
thank you. Thanks for this idea. Thank you for this conversation. It's been helpful.
thank you. I enjoyed it as well. Have a good rest of
Is
your
there
day.
any, you two, is there any more you want to say to anyone who might be watching this?
If you're looking for positive psychology resources, message us. There's a lot out there. I'll, of course, provide this lesson from the School of Positive Transformation so you can do it if you're interested. And just, yeah, there's a lot of books out there. It's not a difficult topic to find. And if you're looking for more pointed resources, we can certainly help.
That'd be great. All right. Thank you, Kate. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.